Welcome to it. Football Fridays with Chris Harris Jr. and myself, Brandon Cristal, London edition. Well, Chris is back in the States, of course, but I am here in London, as are the Denver Broncos, and we are going to tell you everything about their trip to London and get you ready for their game with the Jets. Football Fridays starts now. Chris, what's going on, dude? It's like we're the beauty of technology. I'm 5,000 miles away, and it's like good to be back in Denver. What's going on? You excited about this Broncos match here in London, even though you're going to have to watch football a little earlier on Sunday? But obviously, riding high. Just let's go backwards. Where was your head Sunday after they go into Philly, down 17-3, come back and beat the defending champs to knock them from the ranks of the unbeaten?
Yeah. I mean, I figured that they would go win that game. I thought this would be a game that they could steal from the Eagles. It's hard to win that many games in a row. And they were able to just, take it to that team in the fourth quarter and pretty much play damn near flawless fourth quarter, especially offensively. So to see Bo make big plays in the clutch, Courtland Sutton come up with big plays in the clutch, I was definitely pleased with that victory.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a season-defining victory or a era-defining victory, but for Bo Nixon, a short career, and where this team has stumbled in these close games, especially against good teams, we talk about needing to learn to win, needing to get over the hump. To be down 17-3, we're sitting there in the press box. I'm sure you're sitting there at home going, "Oh man, this could get out of hand here real quick," because they came out in the second half, go down. Barkley finds the end zone. You're like, "Oh, Saquon hasn't really even gotten going yet. What is this going to look like?" And then you got to give the Broncos credit for not only battling back, taking the lead, and then doing something they haven't been able to do against good teams, hold the lead and then extend the lead. And I get that it was a field goal, it wasn't a touchdown, but they were able to obviously take care of enough business that they were able to go and steal that win. So do you think that a win like that, can it be season defining? Or is it, hey, it's just another win? Now you're ready. Obviously, they lose to the Jets and it doesn't feel as good, but does it feel like a season defining win or an era defining win for Bo potentially?
Yeah, it's definitely his biggest win, and I think every game that we've lost this year, we were still winning the fourth quarter with the lead, right? This is the first game we went in the fourth quarter down, so maybe that might be it. Maybe we need to start the fourth quarter losing, But that was a big win for them, the Broncos organization, knock off the defending champs. But now it's time to get rolling. They got a big game this week that they need to take care of business, and they can't really sleep. They can't let really, you usually during the football season you have a couple games where you just give away. They can't really afford to give away any games right now. So it's going to get tight in the AFC West, and they need to be able to go out there and handle business with the games they're supposed to win.
Well, so I kind of glossed over it, but not only here in London, I am sitting in the Tottenham training facility. Tottenham is one of the premier clubs, obviously, in the world, and certainly here in England. They have a partnership with the NFL. I was able to go to the stadium Wednesday. There was a high school game. They have an NFL academy that has been developing kids here in Europe and some kids from Africa that come over. There's 8 different languages spoken. They play high school football. They're high school kids. They played a game against St. Thomas Aquinas out of Fort Lauderdale, which of course famous for, countless NFL players. One of those schools that's put out, from guys like Michael Irvin to the Bosa's to now the defensive player of the week in Nick Bonitto. So it was cool that Nick Bonitto's school was here playing. But I got to see Tottenham's facility, and it really is world class. And they swapped the field out from the soccer pitch, bring in, now it's field turf. And Sean was asked about that Wednesday and said that every football player in the world would rather play on grass. He's like, they're changing it for the World Cup. We could also play on grass if we have the choice, but football only field works. Have you been to Tottenham? Because I know you played at least one game over here, if I'm
No,
not
I didn't
mistaken,
get.
right?
No, that's
So
why I
you
was
never
jealous
played
because
because of the time, yeah.
we never Denver when I was playing in Denver, we never came to London. We never went overseas or anything. So I missed that opportunity. Chargers didn't do it, or the Saints. Or the Saints did it, but I had signed like the week after that when they went to London. So I missed it by a week. So hopefully, they're having fun. They're having a great experience. Some of those guys I hadn't got to go see. the city and things like that. Hopefully, coach gives them time to do that. But ultimately, you got to be focused and know that you got to be ready to put on a show. It's kind of like a primetime game. Being that only great game in the morning, everybody wakes up and watches. So it's a big game for a lot of those guys to um, and like a Nick Bonitto to go out there and continue to raise his stock as the defensive player of the year.
John said this was a business trip, and Tottenham is north of the city. They're staying even further north, like a full hour from where things are going on. He's like, we're not doing any sightseeing. And then literally every player, Marvin Mims, all his Instagram is sightseeing. We asked Pat, hey, what have you been doing? He's like, I've been going sightseeing. So they're not doing team organized sightseeing. But I mean, look, you get most of Monday afternoon off after they cleaned up the game, did their normal Monday, and all of Tuesday. So you'd expect guys are going to take advantage of being in one of the great cities of the world.
Of course, you can't stop guys from, being grown, man. If they have time and free time, I'm pretty sure after they get done with work, 4 or 5, they're probably done for the rest of the day. So, they can get back and forth, but it is a business trip. You got to go out there and focus and know that this Jets team is hungry. They're starving for a win. Coach AG is starving to get a win. So they're going to come out there and try to perform, at a high level. Justin Fields has had solid games versus the Broncos in the past. So he feels probably very comfortable going against his defense. And I'm pretty sure he's probably confident. He probably has a lot of confidence going into this week.
He was playing great in the game in Chicago in week 4 2 years ago. He was lighting the Broncos up, and DJ Moore, you're like, oh, Justin Fields and DJ Moore, this could be a perennial Pro Bowl combo. Well, it didn't play out like that. He then goes to Pittsburgh to back up Russ, but beats the Broncos in week 2 a year ago. Now there wasn't a lot of offense in that game. And now obviously with the Jets at 0-5, they're certainly struggling. And I haven't had a chance to see our guy Darren Muji, but I know that Mooj is feeling it a bit. Talking to some of his, former coworkers here, they can tell that he's feeling it a bit because you're in New York. They weren't expecting them to win the Super Bowl, but I don't know if you expect them to go 0-5. So they are thirsting for a win. But let's hear something that I asked Sean. I asked Sean about this team. We've seen him bounce back from tough losses last year, even the first year that he was here, and certainly this year when you look at the LA and the Indy losses. But how do they handle success? Because they haven't had a lot of it. And so, he gives me a Sean answer here in some ways, but you knock off the defending champs, you remind the league, okay, Sean's talking a lot of noise about his team, but this is a good football team. So how are you going to handle, because look, Jets, Giants, who are going to get, obviously, they get the extra break for following the Thursday night game. They get 10 days. Broncos fly back. Giants, Cowboys up and down. Texans aren't what they've been. It won't be easy in Houston. And then we think a bad Raiders team. They go from 1-2 to 8-2 here real quick. And so let's hear quickly, because I want to get your reaction to Sean and handling success.
I understand the significance of last week's win relative to the opponent, and they're all units, and the first objective is to win the division. The second is to improve your seeding. And then last, play for a championship. That hadn't changed. So, just as we try to digest a loss and then flip the page, the same has to be said, with the win. So I think we have the right makeup and leadership to understand where the focus needs to be this week. I like that we're over here. I couldn't tell you or point in the direction where the hotel is, and that's fine. I'm still trying to figure out how to get around in the hotel, but it's the perfect setup. I like coming over here.
Do you think being over here, so you're not back home watching TV about how good you are, not seeing the power rankings, not talking to all your friends the way you normally would, will allow them to kind of stay locked in?
Yeah, just going over there, you're not gonna be watching too much TV on the road, and you're still gonna be talking with your family, but you're probably more locked in. It's kind of more team bonding on the road. Hopefully those guys are able to, get some extra, dinners, extra, get their rookie dinners, get all that stuff out the way right now, and have that bonding, and that stuff is major when you talk about winning Super Bowls. So hopefully that they use this time period of kind of just getting rest if some people do have, crazy families, it's sometimes good to get away, let some guys get away, get in their own room, own hotel room, and just shut it down, and, take a break from the world. So that's sometimes good. So hopefully being on the road and having this nice setup will lead to great success this weekend.
Yeah, and the team bonding aspect. They did it last year. They played in Tampa, went up to West Virginia, the Greenbrier, and then to New York, got wins there. But, because teams rarely go away for training camp now, very few do, unlike what it used to be, where all of them did. You're just in the hotel and your time to bond. You still spend plenty of time running, but you're forced to go get dinner on the road with your teammates or go do something, go jump in a Uber and go check out something cool. And so I think that they're looking forward to what this week can do from that aspect as well. But it is hard to stay in a routine. I asked Bo yesterday, or Wednesday rather. I asked him. I said, "Hey, you're a creature of habit, maybe more than most quarterbacks certainly are. How do you maintain that routine when you're 5,000 miles from home?"
Well, you try to keep it the exact same, but it's hard when they uproot you. But you don't have quite the same resources, I guess. Resources have changed and locations have changed, so you try to make do with what you got. But it's definitely not going to be a normal week. So good thing I'm not superstitious or anything.
Well, when he says that, it isn't a normal week. So how hard is it, do you think, to stay in a routine when you're in not only another city, the extended like the East Coast trip to Greenbrier, but another country where you don't have the creature comforts of home?
Oh man, knowing me, I had a serious routine. I'd make sure I got my body right, make sure I was able to put enough time in with the film and kids and being able to separate all that, and just make sure my body was fine tuned, ready to go out there and play at a high level. So when you go on the road like this, you might not get the Russell Wilson treatment where you can bring your whole team on the plane, right? You might not get that. So you might have to find a new stretch guy, a new massage guy on the road, or find somebody in London, to work with you. But that would be the biggest difference for me, just changing my the things I do for my body to get me ready for games. Now going to Philly and then going to London, that would definitely be hard to keep me on track.
Well, one guy who, whether it's his routine or not, his habit seems to be getting to the quarterback, and that's Nick Bonitto, defensive player of the week for the first time in his career. Right now, he's second, I think, in odds to win defensive player of the year. Pat Surtain said he wants to see him win defensive player of the year. But how about let's hear from his tag team partner, because Nick Bonitto, 7 sacks, second behind only one of your former teammates in Elvis Dumerville for most sacks through 5 games. And he's certainly putting the league on notice. We've been talking about the closer, and in one of the most watched games in that early window, standalone game. I saw the ratings that came out. He kind of showed the football world that it's not, he's coming. I think he's here. Here's Jonathan Cooper on the progress that Bonitto has made from being a second team All Pro, 4th in sacks, to where he is right now.
Man, because he's awesome. He's in every sense of the word. I mean, I think he's the best pass rusher. I've said this before. He's been top of this league for a while. His instincts are off the charts. His get off, the way he plays the game, the way he approaches, he's smarter than what you give him credit for. He's smart out there. He's a great teammate. He's a great dude. And you live right and you do things right. The success comes. So for everything that he's doing, man, I just more power to him. I couldn't be more happy. I couldn't be more happy, more proud of my guy, honestly.
What else are you going to expect? But I think Broncos country, they're not the exact players, but you're going to keep bringing it up. It has to keep reminding you of what you had with DeMarcus on one side and Vaughn on the other, with Coop and Bonitto and Ellis, kind of the one guy who's banged up right now, dealing with quad injury. But you're right. You said it last week that Ellis is essentially a starter and would be most places. But did you expect Bonitto to take this step after what we saw last year, where he was, again, a defensive player of the year candidate and 4th in the NFL in sacks a year ago?
Oh yeah, man. Usually, as those pass rushers, man, once they get hot and they kind of understand the game, they get a good niche of their technique and how to beat these guys. They can be dominant, and Bonitto has the talent, the skill set to be a All Pro and Pro Bowl guy for a long time. I think he's still fairly young, right? How old is Bonitto?
I think he's 25, maybe 26.
Yeah, he's just now in his prime. So you're going to start seeing the best of him. His get off is probably the best in the league. Like Cooper said, he has great awareness in the pass game and in the run. That if I would give him a weakness, I would say it's probably the run. But he still makes plays, still gets TFLs, but just being a hard critic. But other than that, the guy's one of the top rushers in the league. He's putting fear into these O linemen. And all he has to do is just continue to lead that team. He should be on pace for defensive player of the year. He is on pace for defensive player of the year. So as long as he stays on this track, I mean, he could be at like 20 plus sacks on the season. So I don't know what the record is, but if he keeps,
I think it's still Strahan's, right? At 22.5 or whatever that number was.
it's a real possibility with him to be able to get that.
Well, I'm about to see a stretch of quarterbacks he can probably get to a little bit. I mean, you see a rookie in 2 weeks. You're going to see Justin Fields this week. Dak is susceptible. Certainly, CJ Stroud, that O-line's a mess. Yeah. If he just stays on this pace, that gets him to 21 through 15 games with 2 to play.
He'll get 2 versus the Texans. So what other quarterbacks did we say? Justin Fields, he'll probably get 2 this week. He should
Jackson
be able
Dart.
to get 20. Oh,
Yeah.
Yep. I see the way the schedule is. If he's going to break the record, this is the year. He needs to do it this year.
Yeah, I think so. And it's obviously fun to see the Broncos get him locked up. He did turn 26 a week and a half ago. His birthday was the 26th. So, happy belated birthday, Nick Bonitto. I remember the team making a post. The Broncos social media is good at that, and former players. I'm sure they always shout you out on your birthday. Speaking of shouting out, Broncos D made plays when they needed to. It didn't always look smooth. Let's do something we love doing every week, though. Let's hop into the film room and break it down.
Yes, sir.
We got to start with the play that had Broncos country on edge the most. Why don't you take us through Riley Moss here in coverage?
Well, it's 3rd and 17, and we watched this coverage earlier in the season where I said he needed to play a little bit outside and let his safety help him. Well, right here we're in 3 buzz. It's 3rd and long. The safety's going to come down in the hook. You see him inside of Moss. All Moss has to do is play outside leverage, and that's an easy PBU, right? Pressing on 3rd down, playing aggressive when he doesn't have to. He's calling for Jalen Hurts to throw the ball to him. So I think he can learn from this. He's still a young corner, but we can't afford, to have these type of mishaps in big games every week. So I think he'll be something he can clean up. He was in no man's land. He wasn't really set at a 5 yards or 7, no man's land. And when you're in no man's land, only a couple corners can cover like that. I lived in no man's land like this. That's what I did. But he's not me, so he can't, practice in that no man's lane. He needs to get at 8 yards, get off like Pat. And if you could watch Pat on this play, Pat's chilling over there, 8 yards. He's not breaking a sweat, and he's getting the same route.
Well, the question I was going to ask with Riley in coverage, and I know we're going to jump to another play, he certainly is getting criticized. And I'm not saying when you get beat like this that you don't earn it a little bit. But when you're playing opposite of the best cornerback in football, would Riley Moss be a number 1 corner on other teams is what I'm asking. We saw how good Quinyon Mitchell is, and Cortland Sutton talked about his conversations with Christian Parker, and that they got a good one. And, we can talk about the good corners in the league. We're going to see another one this week in Sauce. But would Riley Moss, if he was on the Cowboys right now, if he was on, we can name a bunch of teams that have crappy secondaries, would he be the number 1 corner there? But because he's opposite of the best cornerback in the world right now, it feels like there's a greater gap than there is in reality.
No, I don't see him being a number 1 on a lot of other teams. I see him probably around the number 2, number 3 corner for sure. But playing opposite of Pat, you're going to get some targets, you're going to get more action, but that's just more chances for you to get more interceptions, make more plays. And this year, it's not like they're not avoiding Pat; they're throwing at Pat also. So I think they're both getting a lot of work this year. And I got to look more at the analytics, but I'm pretty sure they're around the middle of the pack of everybody else around the league right now.
All right, let's jump to the next play, and still in the first half.
Right here, we see the Broncos in the dime package. Okay, now we got Jahdae Barron in the dime, able to see the screen, go inside. You got to make the play. This is a huge play for him to see it. Good read and react, coming inside and making that play, because you're supposed to fit outside of that lineman right there and bring it back in and cap it in. Right, Pat's outside of AJ. Jahdae goes outside, and then Hufanga is coming inside to fill that. Right, so it was a great job by him being able to shoot it, make a fast decision, and even if you do go and you miss, Hufanga can clean it up for you. So this is nice by the Rook going in there making plays, especially at the end of the game and showing that he deserves some more playing time.
Okay, 2 more plays here in the film room, and it comes from or similar type plays. So let's look at obviously really good defense. What do you got here?
Yeah, we got Pat Surtain matched up on AJ Brown, and when teams flare their running back like this, it's quick game all day. And when you play the Eagles, the slant opposite of the flare, right? So Pat, knowing the play is coming, able to get hands on AJ Brown, and that's an Eagle staple. That's like football 101. These are plays you run in the preseason, right? The running back flares, able to have square, have great hands on AJ, stay in front, PBU, right? What you see in the league when you see these flares and running backs just motion, more than likely it's not a deep throw. DBs, do y'all hear me? It's not a deep throw. So you have a great chance to be able to go make a play, get an interception. Maybe next time when Pat sees that flare and he sees that, he might jump inside and go pick it, right? So he's right there. That's a big guy, and it's a very strong receiver. Nice PBU.
The other thing, too, that I meant to ask about the Broncos and how Riley's fared the last 2 weeks, he has been going against, without much argument, the 2 teams that have the best number 2 receivers in the league. When you talk about T. Higgins and Devontae Smith, maybe there's one I'm missing, but it's not going to be a very high list. So I think that's at least worth pointing out, is that he's drawing a tougher assignment than he's going to draw. Who's the number 2 next to Garrett Wilson? Right.
Yeah.
And so that's all. But in the playoffs, you're going to need to make plays against these type players. Then let's get to our final play, and it's a similar, another PBU, as they call it.
Nice PBU by Barron, being able to play.
I think it's first of his career.
Yeah, they're playing 2-man, on one side and playing cover 4 on the other. So Jahdae being able to play aggressive right there, stay on that hip, and be able to have a nice PBU on the tight end. So that's good coverage right there. That's nice. Riley, nice coverage on the bottom, and being able to shut down that middle, because we know that Hurts likes to go there. And it's good to see him get his feet wet, get out there and get some plays versus defending champs, and hopefully his role just continues to expand.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we are, I guess, all wrapped up here in the film room. That was this week's edition of the film room. What we're going to do now, though, as we do every week, now Chris isn't going to be a part of this. There's going to be some video magic. I'm in London, so I'm going to talk to one of the Jets reporters. So right now we're going to go behind enemy lines. Now we're here behind enemy lines, sort of. We're in one of the major train stations in London, but the cool thing about the Broncos and Jets both being in the same city getting ready for a game is we can do our trip behind enemy lines in person. So Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic, nice enough to join me. Zach, I only have a few for you because the Jets aren't much of a national story other than they aren't winning any games. Yeah. And I do want to get to our pal Darren Mooj, the GM there, but just in general, year one, AG, Mooj at the helm now, so new owner, or new general manager, new head coach. How is it being received? Because you're allowed a little bit of runway, but 0-5 still hurts.
I would say it's not being received well. I think the fans, they knew it was going to be, they weren't going to run out of the gates and make the playoffs this year. But, this also is a fan base that has dealt with a team that has not made the playoffs. It'll be going on 15 years this year. And I think more than anything, everybody, fans, media, the team itself, wanted to see progress in the areas they were bad at, the things that Aaron Glenn was focusing on in training camp, which is discipline, penalties, tackling. The defense has been one of the worst in the NFL, and that has been the staple of the team for the last couple of years. Aaron Glenn, in theory, is a defensive coach, and it feels like they've gotten worse over time instead of better. So, I think there's a lot of frustration, and it's gotten pretty negative, honestly, like quicker than I thought it would, because I didn't expect 0-5. I don't think anybody did, and I think ultimately, until you win a game, it's hard for the words that Aaron Glenn are going to say at the podium. No matter what he says, they're going to ring hollow until they win games.
Yeah, and it's easy to, I guess, lose a fan base a little bit. They're Jets fans, so they've been long suffering.
Yeah.
We understand that. Broncos have certainly had more success in recent decades, but they definitely saw their name. Broncos fans would see, all of Broncos country would see Jets and Broncos, last teams to, that hadn't made. And I think while they didn't care about the Jets one way or the other, you didn't want to be on that list. So they, of course, are now off of it and certainly trending up. Before we get to the game, though, speaking of a guy who helped kind of build this team in many respects, and Darren Muji, who was really well regarded around the league, and George Payton almost lost him to the Pats one year, almost to the Raiders, but didn't, kept promoting him. Then Muji gets his own shot here with AG. Obviously, Sean Payton knows both those guys really well. How's it going for Muj, who can only do so much? Your job is to put the team together, and he's also not going to talk very much publicly. I'm not saying he's not around, but I know how he wants to operate. He's not holding a press conference every week.
Yeah, he's in a tough spot. I do think Aaron Glenn wields more power personnel-wise than normally a first-year coach would. So a lot of the guys that brought in, I think, was maybe at the behest of Aaron Glenn. But I do think that everything Muj does is there's a logic to it. You understand where he's coming from. I don't think a lot of the free agents have necessarily worked out, but they signed guys with traits. They were trying to shop more in the middle of the market. Signed guys with traits that have shown signs in the NFL, and they believe this coaching staff can get the most out of them. And then the thing he's aced is trades. He's managed to really work the market for guys that teams are trying to dump that can contribute for this team. He gets Harrison Phillips and Jawan Briggs right before the season starts, two defensive tackles that aren't expensive that have played huge roles right away. That was the position of weakness, and then it became a strength. And then a couple weeks ago, he traded for Jarvis Brownlee, a guy who was a 6th or 5th round pick for the Titans, started all season last year, showed a lot of promise, and he was able to get him basically for a 6th round pick. So he's finding guys that are under contract beyond this year for cheap. He's doing it in a smart way. They just need to hit on their draft picks, which it's too early to judge that, and they need to hit on the free agents, which I think early returns haven't been amazing.
Yeah, and one of those free agents that I don't think anybody expected to light the world on fire, but we talk about a quarterback who is a former first rounder, who was part of a playoff team last year, and Justin Fields. Okay, maybe there's something there. They're going to run the ball. He's the best running quarterback probably in the league in some respects, and they just haven't had a lot going on offense. There's that shootout, I guess, that we saw some play well, but the Broncos saw the best version of Justin Fields 2 years ago in Chicago. Mm-hmm. They didn't see a great version of him, but he still beat them with the Steelers last year. So they've seen Fields, but it's obviously a new system. How long can they go with Justin Fields at quarterback as an organization? Or is this going to be a one and done at this point?
I think I'd lean towards it probably being a situation where they draft somebody and maybe he's the bridge next year. He is under contract for next year. I do think he's been, he hasn't exceeded or fallen below expectations. I think he's been right at his expectations. There's limitations to his game. He fits what they want to do, which is be a running team, but it's hard to win games when you fall behind and you just want to run the ball. And so what they've fallen in the traps of the passing game hasn't been effective until the fourth quarter when the defense is kind of letting up a little bit and they're trying to come back from these big leads. So his numbers look better than maybe they actually are. He's been fine. He hasn't been great. I don't think he's been terrible. But I just don't think he's shown enough to say he's going to be our guy going forward beyond this season.
All right, and so then finally we look at this game this week. Broncos have, in a lot of ways, a signature win, maybe their best win of the Sean Payton era, Bo Nix era, and their losses were tough losses to what we think are probably good teams. So 7.5 almost feels like it's not enough, but that's what the line is. Is there any world where you can see the Jets making it not only competitive, but have a chance to steal a win where they're the clear underdog?
Yeah, I think they can keep it competitive. I think the case for the Jets would be maybe the Broncos having to come down from the emotions of that Eagles win and all the travel. They went right from Philly. They flew from Denver to Philly to here, as you know. And the Jets have played the Broncos relatively well the last couple of years. They've been ugly games, but like they shut down Bo Nix last year. Year before that, they beat them when Hackett was the offensive coordinator. So I'm not ready to say they're absolutely not going to win this. I don't see it happening just because I haven't seen enough to believe that this defense can stop anybody and that the offense can consistently make plays in the passing game, especially against this will be the best defense they faced. And so if they want to run the ball, can they do it on a Broncos team that's really good at stopping the run as well?
Well, we'll find out Sunday. I appreciate the time. Thanks for taking us behind enemy lines on X, formerly Twitter, at Zach Blatt, right?
Yep.
You take the Rosen part out. But Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic, nice enough to join us. That was our trip behind enemy lines. So that was our trip behind enemy lines, and I'm going to bring you the latest Bell and Pollock injury report. Broncos, again, as we've talked about, still relatively healthy. One of the healthier teams in the league. The things that jump out at you from the injury report so far this week through a couple of days of practice is that they still have left guard Ben Powers listed as didn't practice with a bicep. We know that he's having surgery or had surgery and is headed to IR. They just haven't made that move official. And then Jonah Ellis dealing with both a hip and a shoulder. So will he be ready to go on Sunday? It's, I think, still up in the air, but we have obviously one more day of practice to worry about as well. The other thing that you need to know, though, if and when you need an injury lawyer, because you've got something bothering you, whether it's big or little, you need to go to the only injury attorneys I trust, and that's my friends at Bell and Pollock. They're champions of the people for a reason. They'll fight for you. They've got your back, and they'll help you come up with the best plan. So that will bring us to the end of the show. Essentially, we've got to get our picks in, though. And Broncos kicking early, 7:30 kick on Sunday. Are there any other games, though, that I don't want to just shortchange? Because there's a couple good games out there, I know, this week. Are there any that are jumping out at you, Chris, that you want to at least get a thought on before I get your Broncos prediction?
Yeah, I think my biggest game of the week will have to go with the Lions-Chiefs because, you know, two teams are hot. The Chiefs have to win this game. It's a must win or they're pretty much done with the division. It's going to be too hard for them to catch up. So the Lions-Chiefs game is the game of the week for me.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other good ones. Cards-Colts could be interesting. Browns-Steelers, it's always fun. What's Joe Flacco going to do against the Packers? If Joe Flacco can beat the Packers twice in a couple of weeks with different teams, that would be pretty wild. And then I think Seahawks is kind of a sneaky good game with what the Jags were able to do on Monday night against the Chiefs. All right, well then let's wrap it up as we always do, though. Last week we both nailed it with our predictions. I don't know if either of us got the score exactly right, but let's go again. How do you see Broncos-Jets, where the Broncos are 7.5-point favorites in this one?
Oh, yeah, I got Denver winning this game 28-14.
Sweet and simple. And when you're, when you're that much better than I think they are facing this current Jets team, it's hard seeing that it won't be at least 10 points. And I think that they score more points than you think, and I think it's closer to 30. So I'm going to go somewhere in the 30-13, 30-16 kind of range where, the Jets are able to kick some field goals, but obviously not score touchdowns against this vaunted Denver defense. I wish I could have figured out a way to make this more, English for you other than sitting in the state-of-the-art facility here at Tottenham. But nonetheless, I think next time the Broncos come here, or when our Jayhawks play next September, maybe we'll do Football Fridays from London, and then I'll fly back for the Broncos game on September 19th. So the 18th we'll do it. Next year, mark your calendar, September 18th, we're going to do Football Fridays from London for KU and Arizona State, and then we'll fly right back to wherever the Broncos are playing. But this is a lot of fun, Chris, as always, and I hope everybody had fun as we go through the film room and is having fun with this show, because I know I am. It's the highlight of my week. And so, Chris, I will catch you next week. And thank you to David behind the glass doing such a great job, and to all our great listeners and viewers. This has been Football Fridays. I'm Brandon Cristal. It's Guerrilla Sports.